I remember the first time I met her. I was sitting in a small coffee shop. I had a notebook and a pen. I was writing ideas for my life. I felt a little lost. Then I saw her. She sat in the corner. She was drawing cakes on paper. Her eyes were bright. She looked so focused. I watched her for a while. Then she looked up and smiled at me. I smiled back. I stood up and walked to a table. I said, "Hi, are you drawing food?" She laughed. "Yes, I love sweet food. I dream of making a dessert shop." Her voice was light. Her dream felt strong. I felt something move inside me. I said, "That is funny. I also think about a dessert shop." She opened her eyes wide. "Really?" "Yes," I said, "but I never start. Maybe I am too old." She shook her head. "No, dreams are never old." I laughed. She was so young, maybe 10 years younger than me. But her words touched me. I felt like I met a mirror of my own heart. That day I thought, maybe this is not an accident. We met again and again. We met in the same small coffee shop. We met in a park. We met at a tiny bakery. We always talked about food. We always talked about life. She said, "I love sweet food." I said, "Me too." She smiled and showed me a page of drawings. Her drawings had bright cakes and small tarts. I touched the paper and I felt joy. I told her, "I used to bake with my mother." She said, "My grandmother taught me to fold dough." We laughed at the old memories. We felt close. She was young. She ran fast with new ideas. I was older. I had more time and more worry. But when we worked, we fit like two hands. She mixed flavors. I wrote lists. She tested sugar. I checked the cost. One night we sat with a big notebook. We wrote a plan. We wrote the recipes. We wrote the price. We wrote the days we would open. We tasted a new cake. We said, "This is good." We fixed the recipe again and again. Sometimes I felt fear. I counted the money. I counted the risk. She looked at me and said, "We can try." Her voice was calm. Her eyes were bright. I felt hope again. We talked about a name. We said many names and laughed. We did not pick a name that night. We wanted a better name. We wanted a name that felt like us. We wanted a name that felt like home. After that, we kept working. We kept saving. We walked home together. We talked about small things. We shared small jokes. I felt my heart warm. I felt a new light in my life. I thought, maybe this dream is real. Maybe we can do it. We found a small shop on a quiet street. The rent was high, but we said yes. We painted the walls white. We bought second-hand chairs. We placed a small oven in the corner. At first we felt happy. We worked with music on. She mixed cream. I washed bowls. We laughed when sugar spilled on the floor. But soon the hard days came. We opened the shop at 9. We closed at 9. Some days only 1 or 2 people came. We stood at the counter and waited. The cakes looked fresh. The smell was sweet, but the tables stayed empty. One evening I counted the money. It was not enough. Not enough for rent, not enough for bills. My hands shook. I thought, maybe this is a mistake. She walked in with flour on her face. She saw me staring at the coins. She asked, "Are you okay?" I said softly, "I don't know." She put down the bowl. She touched my arm and said, "We can do this. Don't give up." I looked at her young face. She was 10 years younger, but she looked stronger than me in that moment. I said, "What if no one comes tomorrow?" She answered, "Then we make cake anyway. Someone will come. One day." Her words were simple, but they gave me air to breathe. That night, I locked the door. I walked home under the streetlight. I felt tired, but I also felt a small fire still inside me. I thought, maybe tomorrow will be different. One quiet afternoon, we were both tired. I was cleaning the counter. She was icing a small cake. The door opened. A woman walked in. She held a camera. She smiled and said, "Can I try something sweet?" We nodded. She chose a chocolate tart. She sat by the window. She took one bite. Her eyes grew wide. She said, "This is amazing." We looked at each other. My heart jumped. She asked, "Who made this?" We both raised our hands and laughed. She took more photos. She said, "I write about food. I will share this." I did not understand at first. She laughed again and said, "You will see." That night I could not sleep. I kept thinking, what if she really shares it? Will people care? The next morning I opened my phone. Our cake was on the screen. Hundreds of people liked it. Dozens of people wrote comments. "I want to try. Where is this shop?" I ran to the shop. She was already there. I shouted, "Look at this!" She looked at her phone. Her eyes filled with light. That day, people lined up outside. The street was full of voices. We served cake until our hands ached. We looked at each other. We had no words, but tears came to our eyes. In that moment, I felt something new. This was not only a dream, this was real. After that day, everything changed. More people came, more people smiled. We worked from morning to night, but our hearts were full. One evening when the shop was quiet, we sat by the window. She leaned back in her chair and said, "We did it." I looked at her and nodded. Yes, we did it. Together. I thought of the first day I saw her. She was just a young girl with drawings. Now she was my partner, my friend, my family in this dream. I said, "You are 10 years younger than me, but I learn from you every day." She laughed, "And I learn from you." We clinked 2 cups of tea. The sound was soft, but it felt strong. I looked at the shop, the white walls, the oven, the little cakes in the glass case. I felt proud. I felt grateful. This was not just a business. This was a piece of our hearts. I said quietly, "No matter what happens, this is ours." She smiled. "Yes, this will grow. And we will grow too." I closed my eyes for a moment. I thought, the cakes may be sweet, but this friendship is sweeter. And I knew this was just the beginning.